So this is my review for my second paper, which is Quality-Elasticity, improved resource utilization, throughput, and response times via adjusting output quality to current operating conditions. So the problem this paper addresses is that basically in regard to online software services, when they are operating under regular conditions, resource utilization is often poor, and yet under periods of high system load, throughput generally suffers, meaning the amount of requests or work that is being processed is reduced and the response time for requests is increased. And why is this still a problem? Well, the authors state that these problems are persistent because services are designed to produce responses of a fixed quality regardless of the current operating conditions. So poor resource utilization during normal operating conditions is wasteful and leads to higher operational cost than is needed for both the service and infrastructure providers. And something else they mention is that low resource utilization also implies that there's a missed opportunity to potentially provide higher quality results or services at no additional expense. I will get back to that a bit later. The second thing is, because applications are increasingly deployed as distributed systems, performance fluctuations in one component can cause large ripple effects. And in the case of needing to scale up the infrastructure, it may be too late or it may not happen quick enough because scaling is time consuming. And this, the result of this could be that some requests time out and are not serviced at all. The last thing is that the latest attempts at solving this problem related to poor resource utilization is that they do provide a fixed quality, or they don't provide a fixed quality output, but they are still rather limited in what they can do. So for related work, basically to account for fluctuations in resource utilization, regular systems will generally scale up and down. And the modern approach that this paper kind of references from another paper is that the quality of service, that is, the output quality, is often adjusted, but it's only in a binary fashion. So the paper uses, or the example paper that they reference has the idea of an online shopping website, and so it displays products, and if resource utilization is too high, then the output can be the output or the quality of the output of that service can be reduced, and one way of doing that would be to not display recommended products. But this is the only option, essentially, so it's a binary formula, I guess, is that you can either display everything or you cut some of it out to reduce the reduce the quality of the output, which will enable response time and stuff to maintain its the satisfiable, or the level that is satisfactory. So the main idea of the paper is that the quality of service needs to be adjusted based on current operating conditions. And so to expand on what this means is, when resources are abundant, response quality can be increased which means increased resource utilization, and when resources are scarce, then responses are delivered at a lower quality to keep throughput and response times at satisfying levels. So in the case of the online shopping website example, multiple algorithms should be used for quality adaptation or adjustment. So instead of just having one option, like dropping recommendations altogether, you could have other options. For example, querying the database for products that have the same tag as their current product being viewed, or something like that. And this would also be only be able to happen if products were tagged in the database. But that would be one idea, is that, or another option, and there's multiple other options that the paper also mentions. So how is this better? Well, basically services don't just services currently do not adjust their mode of operation based on the current operating conditions. And relying on scaling, as in the case of some systems, such as Kubernetes, can mean requests are not serviced, but instead time out, because scaling is time consuming. And having more resources available to begin with, and designing systems with elastic quality of service is more efficient in terms of resource utilization and prevents requests being timed out. So the authors evaluated this by comparing with the related work that used the online shopping website as their kind of evaluation. So it was basically a comparison of binary versus elastic quality adjustment. So binary meaning if we need to reduce resource utilization, we reduce the quality. Elastic means essentially there'll be more options, so you can go up, down with multiple options, but also up in quality. The results were basically, there was a 50, well, they're listed on the slide there. They were pretty good. So my critiques for the paper are basically that the authors stated that not using resources implies a missed opportunity to potentially provide higher quality results or service at no additional expense. And I do not really understand why you'd want to increase the quality of service beyond the normal level at certain lean periods of workload. In my opinion, if there is a lack of resource utilization, then scaling needs to happen. And if scaling happens too slowly, then, and again in my opinion, research should be devoted to speeding up that process of scaling, rather than going down the track that this paper suggests. Also, so my second critique is related to the first, and the papers used to back up the author's facts regarding lack of resource utilization were published in 2016, 2012, and 2007. And the latest paper is the main one that they use for their argument, but it supposedly reports that only 15% of resources are used in data centers in the United States, which seemed a little bit suspicious, and my thought behind that was it probably would be more down to cloud users not really taking advantage of all the capabilities of cloud architectures and essentially not utilizing the full capacity of them. My third critique is that the problems addressed in the paper were there were two problems, and it wasn't really clear about what they were trying to evaluate or what the whole point of it was. So whether it was fixed quality versus binary versus sorry, so essentially they mentioned that services don't tend to, they have a fixed quality of service output, but in the end they evaluated against a binary quality of output. So it's as if they acknowledge that the binary quality, the binary version in terms of quality of output was better than a fixed quality, and this has already been explored by other authors in other papers, and they were trying to expand upon that, but that wasn't really clear from the evaluation process. And that is the end of my presentation.